This was a case of forgery and attempting to obtain monies by deception. Never at the beginning of the investigation did I ever envisage that I'd be dealing with not only one murder investigation, but a number of murder investigations.
Doctors are supposed to give people support when they are at their most vulnerable, but Dr. Harold Shipman used his position to take advantage of his patients, and in a cruelly ironic twist, became one of the most prolific serial killers in English history. Today's story is one with a twist that will leave you cautious for your next doctor's appointment. Welcome to True Stories. Join the family and let us explore some of the most interesting true crime stories. As always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Harold Shipman was born in Nottingham, England in 1946. He was a promising student throughout school and excelled in sports, particularly rugby. Born the middle child into a working-class family, Harold Frederick Shipman was the favorite child of his domineering mother, Vera. She instilled in him an early sense of superiority that tainted most of his later relationships, leaving him an isolated adolescent with few friends. When his mother was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, he willingly oversaw her care as she declined. He was fascinated by the positive effect that the administration of morphine had on his mother's suffering. But she died of the disease on June 21, 1963. Experts would later speculate that this was the moment that inspired his sadistic killing spree, and devastated by her death, he was determined to go to medical school, and he was admitted to Leeds University Medical School for training 2 years later. He then went on to marry Primrose May Oxtoby while studying medicine at Leeds University Medical School. The pair had 4 children together, and from the outside, Shipman's life was the picture of normality. He graduated in 1970 and commenced life as a junior doctor, but he quickly moved up the ranks and became a general practitioner at a medical center in West Yorkshire. It was here in 1976 where Shipman first found himself in trouble with the law. The young doctor was caught forging prescriptions for Demerol, an opioid typically used to treat severe pain, for his own use. Shipman had become addicted. He was fined, fired from his job, and required to attend a rehabilitation clinic in York. Harold Shipman seemed to get back on his feet quickly and returned to work at Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde in 1977. He would spend the next 15 years of his career here before setting up a one-man practice in 1993. He developed a reputation among his patients and in his community as a good and helpful physician. He was renowned for his bedside manner. Yet no one knew that at the same time, the good doctor was secretly killing his patients. It was March 1975 when Shipman took his first patient, 70-year-old Eva Lyons. It was the day before her birthday. At this time, Shipman had got his hands on enough diamorphine to kill hundreds of people, though no one was even aware of his addiction until the next year. Though Shipman was fired that year for forging prescriptions, he was not removed from the General Medical Council, the doctor's regulatory body. Instead, he received a warning letter. According to investigators, Shipman would stop and restart his killing spree many times throughout his decades of terror. But his meth killing always remained the same. He would target the vulnerable, with his oldest victim being 93-year-old Ann Cooper and his youngest 41-year-old Peter Lewis. Then, he'd administer a lethal dose of diamorphine and either watch them die right there or send them home to perish. In all, it's believed that he killed 71 patients while working at the Donnybrook practice and the remainder while operating his one-man practice. Of his victims, 171 were female and 44 were men. However, in 1998, undertakers in his community of Hyde became suspicious of the number of Shipman's patients who were dying. The neighboring medical practice further discovered that the death rate of his patients was almost 10 times higher than their own.
Originally, I was approached by a local general practitioner in the Hyde area, and she felt that she had been signing rather more second cremation certificates than would normally be the case, where the first signature was that of Dr. Shipman. And on the basis of that, she then telephoned me and asked me to look into the matter to make sure that everything was as it should be. There were 2 possible explanations for that. One was that something untoward was happening, or the other explanation was that Dr. Shipman was just a very, very conscientious GP and happened to be in attendance with a lot of patients shortly after they died at their home address.
They reported their concerns to the local coroner, and then the Greater Manchester Police were called. This could have been the end of Shipman's reign of terror, but it wasn't. The police investigation failed to carry out the most basic of checks, including whether Shipman had a criminal record. If they'd asked the medical board what was on his file, they'd have uncovered that he had forged prescriptions in the past. Cunning Shipman had also covered his tracks by adding false illnesses to his victims' records. As a result, the investigation didn't find any cause for concern, and the deadly doctor was free to keep killing. Shipman's crimes were finally uncovered after he made the mistake of trying to forge the will of one of his victims, 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy, a former mayor of his town of Hyde. After Shipman administered a lethal dose of diamorphine to Grundy, he selected the cremation box on her will to hide the evidence. Then, he used his typewriter to write her family out of the will entirely, leaving. However, Grundy was buried, and her daughter, Angela Woodruff, was notified about the will by local solicitors. Immediately, she suspected foul play and went to the police. Woodruff said of the situation, "The whole thing was unbelievable. The thought of Mum signing the document leaving everything to her doctor was inconceivable. The concept of her signing a document which was so badly typed didn't make any sense."
Never at the beginning of the investigation did I ever envisage that I'd be dealing with not only one murder investigation but a number of murder investigations. Respected in the area. She spent all her spare time working on behalf of other people. She ran a luncheon club 2 or 3 days a week. She worked to help the aged, she did the banking for them. She was a remarkable woman. She realised that there must be something wrong because she is a solicitor in her own right and had in fact got her mother's will in her possession that had been made some 10 years prior to her death.
Grundy's body was subsequently exhumed in August 1998 and diamorphine was found in her muscle tissues. Shipman was then arrested on September 7 of that year. Over the next 2 months, the bodies of another 11 victims were exhumed. A police expert also checked Shipman's surgery computer and discovered that he had made false entries to support the fake causes of death he gave on his victims' death certificates. Simultaneously, Shipman insisted that Grundy was addicted to a drug like morphine or heroin and pointed to his notes as evidence of this. However, police found that Shipman had written the notes on his computer after her death. Then, police managed to verify 14 other cases where Shipman had given lethal doses of diamorphine, falsely registered the patients' deaths, and tampered with their medical history to show that they were dying anyway. Harold Shipman always denied the murders and refused to cooperate with the police or criminal psychiatrists.
Can you remember Lily Crossley at all? Okay, no answer. If I can also, it's going to be awkward this, you've been standing up and walking around, but I think this is what we're going to have to do. You might want to just sit back a little bit. As you and I don't keep pushing in front of you.
Would you want to make any comment, Doctor? No comment.
When the police tried to question him or show him photos of his victims, he sat with his eyes shut, yawned, and refused to look at any evidence.
Lily Crossley, if you'd like to look at that, just for the benefit of the tape. Dr. Shipman's eyes are closed and he didn't look at the photograph at all.
Police could only charge Shipman with 15 murders, but it's been estimated that his kill count is anywhere between 250 and 450. In 2000, Shipman was handed life imprisonment with a recommendation that he never be released. He was incarcerated in a Manchester prison, but ended up in Wakefield Prison in West Yorkshire, where he took his own life. On the day before his 58th birthday, January 13, 2004, Shipman was found hanging in his cell. He told his probation officer prior to this that he was thinking about committing suicide so that his wife would receive his pension and lump sum. With his death, looms the question of why he killed. A number of theories have been put forward to explain why Shipman had the urge to murder. Some say that he may have been avenging the death of his mother. Others offer the more charitable opinion that he injected the elderly with diamorphine as a misguided way of offering compassion. Still, others suggest that the doctor had a god complex and simply needed to prove that he could take life as well as save it. What do you think? Did the good doctor actually murder? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and give the video a like. Till next time.